Saturday morning. Got plenty to talk about. I usually, like I said, I try to do 2 videos on the weekend, 2 and 2. But I've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I pretty much have my weekend cut out for me right now. I don't have to look for anything else. I got everything I need to discuss right now and tomorrow. So there's a site known as the Foundation for Economic Education. Very short website, fee.org. And on Thursday, they posted an article that kind of caught my attention. Because Greece, we already know the situation in Greece. It's worse than terrible. It's absolutely horrible. And they're trying to squeeze blood from a turnip, the turnip being the people over there. But we also talked about Italy and the massive banking crisis that would be coming. The Webbot gave us a huge foresight in advance, way in advance, about watching out for Italy. And what are we seeing in recent times? Italy and its banking system in disarray. It's in big, big, big trouble. Not that it matters all that much because it's just Italy. It's not just Italy. It's most of the EU nations, most of the Western world, you could say. So what caught my eye here, this guy wrote it, Daniel Mitchell from fee.org, again, Foundation for Economic Education, which sounds fantastic to me. I'm all about economic education, not the kind they teach you in school or the kind you get when you go to Princeton, Harvard, or Yale, because you're spewing more of the nonsense crap. Speaking of which, the last thing I sent myself to do a video on, data fraud at Chinese province suggests local GDP numbers at the province, like a state, where they cook the books as much as 20%. And the theory now is, well, if that one province cooked the books and you just found out about it, this has been going back for years, they said, what other provinces in China have also been doing the same? And I've got an even bigger question. What other countries that you might live in have been doing the same thing? And the states within those countries might be doing the same thing. And the corporations, as I keep pointing out over and over and over again, and especially the financial institutes, have been cooking their books over and over again. A country near you, I can assure you. So this article is titled, Move Over Greece, Italy's Crisis Will Be Worse. Now remember the bank that was in Italy? The big 400-year-old, 600-year-old bank, whatever the hell it was. Remember, it was like founded in 14 or 1600 and something. Still chugging along. And then all of a sudden 2016 comes along. Uh-oh. We got some big problems for this, like the world's oldest bank, or at least in Italy. And that was Monte Paschi. And I read you stories, and there's corruption over here, and there's fraud over here, and the new management team, we coming in, we're going to take over and fix it. They leave 6 months later. No, we're not. We're out. They're uncovering some stuff they don't want to have to deal with. So Webbot did say, watch Italy and its banking system. Watch Italy. Keep your eyes on Italy financially. So this article says, earlier last month in a column on my hopes and fears for 2017, I fretted about fiscal chaos in Italy leading to default and bailouts. Simply stated, I fear that Italy, along with certain other Club Med nations, has passed the point of no return in terms of big government, demographic decline, and societal dependency. A little prettier word I might like to use would be the welfare state. And this means sooner or later, and I'll add one, probably sooner than later, the proverbial wheels are going to fall off the bus, and it might be sooner, which is what I just said. Anyways, on shaky ground is the next part of this, what he's titling this thing. Just going to check something real quick. Okay. Thought for 1 second, did I do another one of those things where I started the video, forgot, because I have a little timer that tells me when 15 minutes is up, because I'm trying to keep it around 15 to 20 minutes if I can help it, even though the last 2 days I've had a video in there at least 30 minutes. Apologize for that, but I was on a roll. Anyways, good news, it's recording. So I don't have to start over. Thanks. So on shaky ground. I don't always agree with his policy recommendations, but I regularly read Desmond Lackman of the American Enterprise Institute because he is one of the best informed people in Washington on the fiscal and economic mess in Europe. In Italy, to be blunt, is in a mess. And this is what this gentleman has said. While the euro could very well survive a Greek exit, it certainly could not survive in anything like its present form, were Italy to have a full-blown economic and financial crisis that forced it to default on its public debt mountain. Among the reasons that there should be greater concern about an Italian rather than a Greek economic crisis is that Italy has a very much larger economy than Greece. Being the third largest economy in the Eurozone, Italy's economy is around 10 times the size of that of Greece. Well, hold on, Jason, gotta interject on this one right here. Italy's economy is around 10 times the size of that of Greece now, or before Greece got bailed out 1,400 times and they privatized the entire country and all the islands around it and gave them to their banker buddies. So was it 10 times now or then? I'm just curious, right? I mean, okay. Doesn't matter. You get the point. Equally troubling is the fact that Italy has the world's third largest sovereign bond market with public debt of more than $2.5 trillion. Much of this debt is held by Europe's shaky banking system, which heightens the risk that an Italian sovereign debt default could shake the global financial system to its core. The country's economic performance since 2008 has been abysmal. Indeed, Italian living standards today are around 10% below where they were 10 years ago. Meanwhile, Italy's banking system has become highly troubled, and its public sector debt as a share of gross domestic product, or GDP, is now the second highest in the Eurozone. And here's some of what this same gentleman wrote last year. Today, there would seem to be as many reasons for worrying about the Italian economy as there were for worrying about the Greek economy back in 2009. Like Greece then, Italy today checks all too many of the boxes for the making of a full-blown economic and financial crisis within the next year or two. The Italian economy today is barely above its level in 1999 when the country adopted the euro as its currency. Let me interject here. The euro was touted as taking all these countries and bringing them up, and lifestyles go up. I'm sorry. They've lost 10% of theirs since 10 years ago. As far as I know, the further out in the future technological advance we get, etc., shouldn't the world, generally speaking, shouldn't life get better for everybody? Or at least in the Western world, the ones that are running the show, you could say? You would think so, but nope, 10% below where they should be, which would mean you would expect to see in 10 years, how about a 10% inclination, not a decline, an incline of 10%, inclination of 10% growth. How about that? As far as, again, the country's economic performance since 2008 has been abysmal. Indeed, Italian living standards, so standard of living, very important to a healthy middle class. Shouldn't it be 10% higher? Which would mean if it's down 10%, it's 10% below where they were 10 years ago, you would expect at least a little bit of growth every year. So not only should it have been up, and if it was up, you get rid of the 10%, it's just flat for 10 years. It should have gained 10% over 10 years, for goodness sakes. Which means that's a 20% where it should be. And the only thing you hear is about like Germany or, one of the big power players. Now, how well the euro is. Euro is great for a couple of select countries. The rest of you guys, sorry about your luck. So we're still, since the great global economic recession in 2008 and 2009, the Italian economy has experienced a triple-dip recession that has left its economy today some 7% below its pre-2008 crisis peak level, and its unemployment rate is stuck at over 11%. And I'm here to tell you, not a chance in hell that number's accurate. Governments lie. So if it's 11%, that they're telling you it is, it's far worse. Okay? I don't think I have to argue that point with you. Deficiencies of its ossified labor market that contributes so importantly to the country's very poor productivity performance. As a result, since adopting the euro in 1999, Italy's unit labor costs have increased by around 15%, more than half those in Germany. Italian banks now have around euro 360 billion in non-performing loans, which amounts to a staggering 18% of their loan portfolio. If that were not bad enough, the Italian banks also hold unhealthily large amounts of Italian government debt, which now totals more than 10% of their overall assets. The country's public debt level has risen from 100% of GDP in 2008 to 133% of GDP at present. And I've said this not that often, but I have said this for sure. When a country's debt to GDP ratio gets 100%, that's pretty much the point of no return. Because it's going to keep going higher. It's going to be 101%, 105%, 110%, 120%. It's going to grow and grow and grow. This is no different. 100% in 2008, so it was already touching the point of no return then, and is now 133% greater, which would mean it's a third higher than it was as far as debt to GDP. The numbers shared by Lachman are downright miserable. And he's not the only one pointing out that Italy's economy is in the toilet. Because it's showing, and this is, what do we have here? The debt to GDP ratio? What are we looking at? Let me see what this chart is actually showing. Actually, I'm not sure what it is. I'll show you the chart, but I'm not sure what it's actually showing other than some numbers going downward. It's not looking good. Ireland looks okay. But anyways, I shared numbers last year showing the pervasive stagnation in the country. Falling birth rates. So what's the Italian government doing to solve these problems? Is it slashing tax rates? Reducing the burden of government? Cutting back on the red tape? Of course not. The politicians are either making things worse or engaging in pointless distractions. Speaking of which, I'm tempted to laugh at the Italian government's campaign to boost birth rates. Here's some of what's been reported by the New York Times. A government effort to promote Fertility Day. On September 22nd, a campaign intended to encourage Italians to have more babies. Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in the world. Italian families have been shrinking for decades. In 2015, 488,000 babies were born in Italy, the fewest since the country first unified in 1861. What? It has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe with 1.37 children per woman compared with the European average of 1.6, according to Eurostat figures. So again, if it's 1.3, even this other stat, the average is 1.6 per woman. That means, and I know obviously you can't have 1.5 children, but bear with me. Let's double that. Let's just say we're going to double these numbers just for the sake of easy math and making it understand real easily. 1.5, it's actually 1.6 is the Eurostat average. So for one woman, 1.5 children are born. So we're going to double that to make it 3 children for every 2 women. But there's also men, husband and wife, right? So if that means there's 1.5 children for a woman, it's safe to say it's 1.5 children for a man and a woman because it takes a man and a woman to have the freaking kid. So you have less, excuse me, didn't mean to pound on that microphone. You have less people being born who have to now carry the government debt, the weight, etc., the debt load of the retirees and their pensions and new government fluff and more government spending and bonds, and the rates got to go up, so the rates go up, so we got to pay more money to the people who we owe the bond money to. But we're doing this on less people who are in the working force because, again, the birth rate says so. This cannot, will not, mathematically certainty here, end well. And that goes for a lot of countries in the EU as well, of course. He says, by the way, I actually commend the government for recognizing that falling birth rates are actually a problem. Not because women should feel obligated to have kids if that's not what they want, but rather because Italy has a massive tax and transfer wealth. Rather because Italy has a massive tax and transfer welfare state that is predicated on ever-expanding population of workers, i.e. taxpayers, to finance benefits to the retirees, which is what I was just saying. You have less people to pull from to fund the retirees. Same problem we have here in America with this thing you might have heard of called the baby boomer issue. Yeah. But old people are living longer now, which is another problem. And low birth rates mean that there won't be enough taxpayers to prop up the Ponzi scheme of big government. And I'll add one, and their broken retirement promises to the retirees. But while the government deserves kudos for acknowledging a problem, it deserves mockery for thinking empty slogans will make a difference. More of the same. Moreover, there's also a problem in the Italian voters, in that the Italian voters have been so conditioned to expect handouts that they think the answer to the problem is even more government. The problem is not a lack of desire to have children, critics of the campaign say, but rather the lack of meaningful support provided by the government and many employers. Quote, "I still feel very offended," said Vittoria Icavele, 37, a journalist and mother of 2 girls, ages 18 and 10. The government encourages us to have... I'm sorry, I thought the quote ended. Let me put that back on for you. The government encourages us to have the babies. And then the main welfare system in Italy is still the grandparents. Italy's government has tried to help families with a so-called baby bonus. You know me, Jason Ford loves handing out bonuses. Matter of fact, I got a bonus in the mail today from a subscriber. Man, I want to send you a couple ounces of silver, man. You want to send me a couple ounces of silver? Here's my work address. Thanks, buddy. Got it in the mail today. Some of the Chris Dwayne's stuff. Really, really cool coins. But I guess there's a bonus here. That Italy's government has tried to help families with the so-called baby bonus of 80 to 160 euros, or about $90 to $108 today in US dollars, for low and middle income households. And it has approved labor laws giving more flexibility on parental leave. And Miss Ecavella is crazy for thinking that more taxes, more spending, more regulation, and more mandates will actually make anything better. There's a bit more to this article, but I think I've hit home on what I needed to hit home on. This does not end well. Even if the Trump, whatever version of Trump decide I'm going to run in Italy and screw the leftists and the government handouts and vote for me, they are already past the point of no return. And again, mathematical certainty. Math doesn't lie. Less people coming on scene to fund more people living longer and retiring and getting extra bonuses and playing the pension game. Like I always tell you, they work the last year as much as they can to get all the overtime they can, because the pension for the rest of their life is based on one single year, the best year they've ever had during their whole career while they had the pension. And they all play the game. I want to retire with the most. Who wouldn't want to? I want to retire with the most money. Absolutely. Matter of fact, because I hate you bastards, I'm going to put 3 more advertisements in this video so you can help fund my retirement in 20 years. No, not happening. I'm kidding. But seriously, this doesn't end well. Webbot said to look for this. Italy, it's going to be in the spotlight, etc. Banking problems, epic. If this article was false, there's not a chance in hell that the guys who went to go fix the Italy's largest bank, oldest bank, didn't get in there and a few months later say, we're out, can't do this, we'll see you later. With their huge paychecks that they get, the bankers at the top, massive paychecks. They, even with that, nah, we don't want this, we're out. We're going to go ahead and take off. Appreciate it, but peace. So, again, I wish Trump a lot of luck, but I can't see how America is going to be really great again when the whole rest of the world is going to be falling apart. I call me crazy, but I don't think there's just going to be one country that just is like the glorious country of the world and nothing bad happens to it while the rest of the world goes to crap. Considering the rest of the world has quite a few of our dollars, if you know what I mean, debt. So that's another story. But yeah, so on to my next video. Take care.